These are 10 craziest truths about how social media changed humanity on Joe Rogan Podcast. Episode number 1967. Joe Rogan and Mike Vecchione dive into social media addiction, the illusion of connection, and the challenge of staying disciplined in the digital age.
You're dealing with a company like, say, Instagram. How many people do they, let's guess, how many people are on Instagram? What do you think?
Well, there's 350 million people in the country, right?
But in the world, there's
oh, yeah.
Instagram is worldwide.
Yeah, billions.
How many people do you think?
Billions.
Just take 2 billion? What do you think?
3 billion.
I'll say 2. Let's say, what do you think? How many people do you think are on?
It's probably about 1.
1 billion?
But daily active users would be less too. So.
Let's find out how many accounts are on Instagram. Let's Google that. How many individual accounts are on Instagram? I'm saying 2 billion. What do you think, Jamie? You say 1? You say like 2, 3?
Yeah, 3.
Facebook's the most, and it's not over 2 billion yet.
Oh, it isn't?
Pretty sure.
I thought it was. Facebook's worldwide.
Yeah.
Like, Facebook changes elections in places. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
I had Zuckerberg on, and you could tell, like, having a conversation with that guy.
Dang, I'm off.
What?
Instagram is 2.35 billion active users.
Wow, that's you.
Wow.
That's you.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot of people,
Yeah, I guess
man.
it would be hard for them to field. I guess it would be hard for them to field like complaints or
But
whatever.
meanwhile, that's 4th amongst the biggest social media networks globally. So what's number 1? Facebook's number 1, 2.9 billion. YouTube is 2.2. I don't really consider YouTube social media, not that much.
Right.
Because maybe it is. I guess it is. But I don't use it that way. I use it for entertainment.
Yeah.
If I'm watching YouTube, I'm watching stuff like fights or
Clips, yeah.
WhatsApp is 2 billion. Well, WhatsApp is a communication app. I don't
Right.
think that's social media.
No.
Instagram, 2.35. TikTok's only 1 billion? That's interesting. I would have thought it was way more.
I think it is.
I think it's on
this
the
might
rise,
be-
though.
this might
Isn't
be
TikTok like a
skewed.
thing? And then Instagram Reels is competing with it, right?
Where's
So it's
Twitter?
like-
Where's Twitter in
Yeah,
that?
I feel like Twitter's never been in the top 10.
Really? But it's not even in the top. Oh, it's way down
down
there. 397 million.
Wow.
Wow.
I
Look at
think
all
Twitter's
these ones
like-
that are
yeah.
fucking way more.
Reddit.
Like Pinterest? Pinterest is 475 million? Reddit. Look at Reddit.
Yeah.
430 million. Woo!
I'm not on Reddit at all.
Reddit's
Thank God.
chaos. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah.
I know guys who go on Reddit and they read about themselves and they go down a dark road.
They get their feelings hurt bad.
Oh, there's a
Yeah, yeah.
bunch of intelligent vipers on
Facebook
Reddit.
runs the top 5, 3 of the top 5, which is a little strange because they've split them all up, and this could just be one app.
Well, you
Facebook
know,
Messenger could just be Facebook.
Yeah,
wasn't that
that's
one
true.
of the things that they asked ChatGPT? Like, do you think that Facebook is a monopoly and should it be broken up?
I mean,
And
absolutely.
They said yes.
Yeah. What did Zuckerberg say?
Well, I didn't ask him about
Yeah.
that. No, but for him, it was interesting because he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, people think of him as like a robot and a thing. I think he's not that at all. He's a guy who created this thing a long-ass time ago with
Yeah.
no anticipation of what it was going to become. And then
Right.
it became this fucking worldwide monster.
Right.
This thing that's just, it's so big. And,
Yeah.
and you know, he's a pretty interesting guy and very forthcoming. He was explaining, like, about how the FBI contacted him about the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
And explained it on the podcast, and it created a firestorm of
I'm sure.
controversy.
I'm sure.
Because he was just kind of casually explaining,
Right.
well, the FBI told us that there was going to be some disinformation coming out of Russia, and
Right.
you know, we were told that this and that, and so we limited its reach, and then it just was fucking giant news, like that this is just, I mean, this guy just created a fucking dating site for college kids.
Right.
You know,
Right.
X amount of years ago.
But he was instrumental in growing it, though,
Oh, yeah.
too. You know what I mean? And with that comes like bad stuff, obviously. You know, not
Yeah.
just the good parts of it.
And also, I mean, most recently, he took a big blunder with that whole Meta thing, where they thought that everybody was going to put on headsets and delve into the metaverse.
Oh yeah.
And that shit didn't work at all.
No, why?
It's too weird.
Yeah.
Like, I love
I mean, that's
VR.
that's close to. I mean, that will mess. I mean, you want to talk about social media fucking with your mind, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
meta stuff, like in a alternate reality. We all just live in. You're basically getting closer to just being in a pod. You know what I mean, and having that on.
Yes.
You know, as your reality.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's just like, look, when I was a kid in the 1980s and 90s, there was
good times.
good times. But there was times back then where people thought virtual reality was going to be the future.
Mm-hmm.
But the technology wasn't available. It didn't really work. But it was always this thought, you know, that one day we're going to live in virtual reality. And that was the Matrix. That was
Right.
like all these different things. But it
Right.
was like science fiction-y enough
Yeah.
that it was so far ahead.
Yeah.
And then the technology was kind of clunky, so it never really took off. But
Right.
then when Oculus came around, and what were the other ones? There was another big one other than Oculus. Vive. That's right. The HTC Vive. That they were so good. You're like, ooh, maybe we're close. And there's some fun fucking games you can play on that. Apparently there's an Alien, like Alien 1, the movie game, that is fucking terrifying. And you play it and you're on the Nostromo, that spaceship.
Yeah.
And the fucking aliens in the spaceship.
Right.
And you know, you're going down dark corridors and rain's dripping and you know, and then the thing just jumps out at you. It's fucking terrifying apparently. But that, for whatever reason, they thought that was just going to just sweep the whole country and everyone was going to...
And it was a virtual reality mask that you put on?
The
over your
Oculus
eyes?
is.
Yeah.
The Oculus, it's very light. The new one is very light. Like the old ones, we had the HTC Vive at the studio and it had to be attached to a backpack and there was like a cable that came above you and we had the cable suspended from the ceiling so we had like a sectioned off area where you could play in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got better and John Carmack got involved and you know they made even better versions of it and then it became something you just sit on your head. And then when that happened, I was like, oh boy, we're getting close now because now
Right.
it just sits in your head and you have these two controllers in your hand. But it's still just people are
Yeah.
not that interested in it, which is interesting.
That's good, I think. I think it's a
Probably.
good thing not to be on it. you
I
know?
think it's going to be the future. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be something that's so wonderful and so exciting that you can't get out of it.
It's going to be weird how it morphs with your mind. It's going to eventually morph with your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it'll be like part of you, kind of. That's where we kind of
Yeah.
morph into the robot world,
Yeah.
I guess.
That's happening. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of like, what is it, 10 years? Is it 20 years?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But technology is going to reach a point where it's so... Look, no one ever would have thought that you would have a thing in your pocket where you couldn't stop looking at it.
Right. I'm still amazed by it. Like I'm in New York, you know, and I'm watching people just walk down the street
Yeah.
with it on, and they're not conscious of anything else that is going on, and
New
they're
York's
just walking
fucking
down
dangerous.
the street. It's dangerous. There's cars that could hit you. It's like all
Yeah.
they're just walking down the street, just immersed in it. Actually,
Yeah.
if you're on the subway and you're not on it, if you're just staring forward, like you're the weird one. Mm-hmm. You're the
Yeah.
weird one.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like, what's this guy doing?
If you get on a subway with a book, like, who the fuck is this guy?
Throwback.
You're reading a book?
Yeah.
A real book?
Yeah.
It's not even a Kindle?
Yeah. It's unreal. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's...
I had the books on my phone now, so I'm reading it on my phone. That's amazing to me. I think to
Yeah.
have all that information, just a library.
Oh,
With
yeah.
a library app, you could just download books from the library on your phone and read them and return them. It's
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Well, I have most of the books that I consume audiobooks. I could, on the way to work, coming home from
Yeah.
work, in the sauna. That's where I do most of my listening to books. And I probably have 200, 300 books
great.
on this little tiny phone.
It's unreal.
And they're all hours long.
Yeah.
Like it's a terabyte of data on that phone. So there's so much room. And also it just stores it in the cloud anyway. So
Right.
if there's no room, it's in the cloud. Then you
Right.
download it and it's fucking... There's never been a time that you could have more access to information. But there's also never been a time where you're more distracted.
Yeah. That's the rub.
Yeah.
That's the rub. But if you're focused on the information, man, it's like it's college. It's basically a college in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And people listening might be like, what do you know, because people grew up with this, but we didn't.
Right.
Like I knew a time where this didn't exist at all. Like
Yeah.
me and my brother had a room together. It was both of us, no TV allowed in the room, dinner together at a certain time, unless you're working or you're at a sports practice, you're having dinner. My father's playing music while we have dinner. We're talking about our day.
Yeah.
And then when we go to sleep, it's like a room, no television, because he didn't want us in our room watching television on our own. You want to
Right.
watch television, you're out with the family.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's that kind of thing. So I guess, you know, it's a different world.
Yes.
And it's been a gradual thing, but it's still very, very different. Like I don't have kids, so I don't know how that would be. But I guess, I mean, like what you do, what you implement with your children,
It's
sounds
difficult.
like the right thing.
They get mad at you.
yeah.
Put your phone down.
Yeah.
They get mad because
Yeah.
that little dopamine rush is, and it's not even a big rush.
Right.
That's what's weird. It's like this little drip of dopamine.
Yeah.
Blip, blip,
Yeah.
blip, but you like, there's this pull, like, was anybody texting
Yeah.
you? Anybody, what's going on? He's like, I see some people on the podcast, they can't help but they reach for their phone.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like they just check their
That's the
text
thing.
messages.
And this is your podcast.
and it's giant. There's
Yeah.
millions of people watching
Yes.
someone just look at their phone. It's like,
It's nuts.
but they can't help it. They just get so
Yeah.
sucked in.
I've done it to the point where it's like when I first get up, I make sure I don't look at it, and do other things first, and then I set time aside and I mentally prepare myself. I go, okay, now I'm going to look at it. I'm going to do as much as I want for 15 minutes, check everything, make sure everything's up, check the comments, and now that the special is out, like respond to people as much as I can, and then after that window is over, not again.
Yeah.
Now the
That's
trick
good.
is YouTube, because I like to watch stuff on YouTube, but it's like I don't want to get addicted to scrolling on YouTube either.
Right.
So that's the difference there. But
I'm definitely addicted to watching stuff on YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, when I have breakfast, I got this little, it's pretty cool, this little kickstand thing that sticks up with your phone.
Oh, that's great.
I think this is called
Yeah.
a coup case or something like that. I forget what it's called, but it's like, bam. So I just sit there
It's great.
and I'll watch stuff while I'm
Yeah,
eating.
right.
You know, and I think I'm not addicted that way. Oh, I'm just being entertained.
But that's YouTube. You're watching substance there instead of mindlessly scrolling, which is what I was
Yes.
doing. And that creates so many bad like emotions and stuff. It's like I don't want to feel that way.
Isn't that weird that mindlessly scrolling creates bad emotions? Like, what is that? Why does it do that? Is it just you feel like you're wasting time?
You're wasting time. You're seeing a bunch of different things, like the energy coming from the thing. I'm a big energy guy too. It's like the energy coming from it hits. Even when you're looking at I tried that for a while, looking at my own. I'll just look at my own stuff. I won't look at everybody's stuff. But then you start getting like, how many likes does this have? How many? It's like
That's
you,
not
you
good.
end up swimming in your own narcissism. So it's like, no, stop that now.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
But my point is, I'm navigating this at 50 when my mind has already been developed. What chance do kids have developing through this time period?
It's a different world, but I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I really do. I think there's going to be a transitionary period where we lose a lot of kids. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they get lost in it. But there's going to be enough kids that recognize, like, okay, this is just the new reality of life. And if you want to be successful, just like you when you were young, you had focus and dedication, you realize there's a lot of people out that don't do that. And, I can learn from them what not to do.
Right.
There's kids that are doing that now, too. And, like, I have friends that very much limit their kids' access to social media. They don't allow them on things. They don't allow them to have a phone. I don't think that's the way to do it, because this is a reality, and I think that if you give the kids the tools and the understanding to handle that, this is a new level of adversity that they have to deal with that we didn't have to deal with.
Right.
But it's the way I look at it, it's like cold weather. Like if you grew up in a place with cold weather, you developed an understanding of what the fuck that means. Like you got to shovel snow, you got to deal with it, and I think they have a new level of adversity because of the pressures of social media and because of like the shit talking, especially with girls. Man, girls are fucking mean to each other.
Yeah,
they reputation destruct.
Yes.
in the comments, and they shit on each other in group chats, and it gets real nasty. And you developed a level of resilience from being able to handle that. Right. And after a while, you get okay with it. And you have to understand what that is. But
you have to understand what that is.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're like going in with that mindset is the important thing.
It is.
But if you're just caught off guard with it, then it can crush you. And it has. It's driven people to suicide.
It definitely has done that. And there's also a thing, the FOMO aspect and the comparison. And this is apparently very bad with girls as well, because there's a lot of people that are using filters and they're changing their body.
Right.
And these girls see these people and they look perfect. And then they see themselves in the mirror and they have zits and they look like shit and maybe they're a little overweight and they get massively depressed.
Right.
And then they think, well, the only way for me, I have to be like that person.
Right.
So I have to do what they're doing and be completely focused on my looks. And some people just, unfortunately, through a genetic roll of the dice, they don't have good features.
Right.
They don't look good. They don't have a good body.
Right.
And then they just feel fucking depressed because they're comparing themselves to this thing.
Episode number 2121. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt shares 4 rules to help kids escape social media's psychological trap. From flip phones to phone-free schools.
1221. From harmless scrolling to hidden harm. Jonathan Haidt, explains how phones and social media are making kids more anxious than ever.
You're raising your kids here. What's your policy on letting them out?
Man, it's slippery.
How old is your oldest?
Well, I have a grown one who's 22, and then I have a 10 and an 8.
Okay.
And it's hard, man, because I don't even like when they go over on sleepovers over
Why
a friend's
not?
house because
Why
it's scary.
Whose problem is that?
It's everybody's problem. You know, it's well, I mean, the parents, I mean, we're pretty selective about the parents, but there's a lot of parents that don't pay attention to their kids at all, meaning they just tune out and they get on the phone. The kids are sticking forks into the fucking outlets. And, you know, there's a lot of weirdness when it comes to the styles of that people have in raising their children. What is this graph you just pulled up?
Yeah. So,
Depressive episodes.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just narrate it for people who are listening, not watching the video. You know, so you said before it's like a virus came out of nowhere. And that is sort of what it's been like. So what's happening in America, and I know it's happening the same in Britain and Canada. I haven't looked at other places yet, haven't dug into those stats. What's happening is that rates of depression and anxiety were fairly stable from the 90s through the early 2000s. And what you see here, and this is a graph that's in our book, is that the percentage of kids aged 12 to 17 in America who met the criteria for having a major depressive episode, that is, they're given a symptom checklist with 9 symptoms, and if you say yes to 5 of them, feeling hopeless and couldn't get out of bed, if you say yes to 5 or more, you're considered to have had a major depressive episode. And what you see is that the rate for boys is around 5%. And then around 2011, it starts going up, and now it's around 7%, which is actually a somewhat substantial increase. But as you can see in the graph, the line for girls starts off higher because girls have more mood disorders, more anxiety and depression. Boys have more antisocial behavior, alcoholism, crime, and violence. But girls it's called an internalizing disorder. Girls basically make themselves miserable. Boys make other people miserable. The girls' rate is higher, but it was stable from 2000, or at least in that graph, from 2005 through 2010. And then right around 2011, 2012, it starts going up, and it goes way up to the point where it goes up from about 12% to now about 20% of American teenage girls have had a major depressive episode in the last year, 1 in 5. So this is huge. Okay, next slide. Now let's look just at college students. So this is more selective. These are kids who've made it into college. And what we see is that in 2010 and 2012, when college students were all millennials, the rates were pretty low. This is, do you have a psychological disorder? And they didn't specify. They said, such as depression. And so we see about 2 to 3% of the boys, the college men, and about 5% of 5 to 6% of college women say yes to that question. That's when it was millennials. But beginning in 2013, Gen Z begins arriving. That's kids born in 1995. Gen Z begins arriving. And so by 2016, colleges are almost all Gen Z. And the rates shoot up, way up.
Yeah, we're looking at these charts right now, and folks who are just listening, it's like a jump ramp for a BMX racer. Yeah. I mean, it really is crazy for women. It came
out of nowhere.
And it hits at 2012. It goes on a very sharp upward angle.
Right. It goes from less than 6% to almost 15% in the space of 4 years.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. You can't say that. That's a microaggression.
Can't say crazy?
Can't say crazy.
What can I say? Fucking nuts? Can I say that?
No, because some people might have a nut allergy.
Oh, boy. Ludicrous?
But yeah, it's
preposterous?
How about just frightening?
Outrageous?
It's really frightening. It's
terrifying.
Really frightening. Yeah.
Terrifying. Okay.
And so this has huge ramifications. Now, let me just make clear. I think we have another slide there. You bring up the next one. Okay, so some people say, oh, come on, you guys are catastrophizing. The increase isn't real. It's just that, this generation, they're really comfortable talking about mental illness. And so the fact that they say they're depressed just means they're comfortable. It doesn't mean that there's an epidemic. Okay?
I've heard this argument, that it's just an argument of recognition rather than of...
Perfectly reasonable. That's right. Diagnostic criteria change. Perfectly reasonable argument. Is it true? Well, let's look at behavior. So what this graph shows is the number of boys out of 100,000 who are admitted to a hospital every year because they deliberately harmed themselves to the point where they had to be hospitalized. And what you see here is that there's no change over time. So boys, these graphs from 2001 to 2015, the lines are flat for all the different age groups. And just notice that the highest rates are around 280 out of 100,000 per year. That's the situation for boys. Next graph. bang, the situation for girls is really, really different. So the averages are higher. So self-harm has always been more of a girl thing than a boy thing. Boys are...
Except for suicide.
Exactly. We'll get to that. That's right. That's next. So if we look at self-harm, what you see here is that the rates were fairly stable up until 2009. And then, bang, just as in the last same thing. The rates for girls go shooting up. So the rate for 15 to 19-year-old girls is up 62% since 2009. Now notice the rate for the millennials, that is the rate for the oldest girls, age 20 to 24, that's only up 17%. So whatever happened, it's not affecting the millennials. It's affecting Gen Z. I think, is there one? Hit the advanced key because I think there's one number missing there. Okay. I'll just, no, go forward. Okay. The number, there it is. The rate for the youngest girls, check that out. Now, the youngest girls, these are 10 to 14-year-old girls. These are preteens. Okay, they didn't used to cut themselves. They used to have very low rates. But bang, beginning in 2010, it shoots up. It's up 189%. It has nearly tripled in the last 5 or 6 years.
What's the cause?
We don't know for sure, but the reason why, because of the huge sex difference, the leading candidate and the timing, look at that timing, is social media. So if you look at what happened in this country and all around the world, Facebook opens up to the world in 2006. You don't have to be a college student, but very few teenagers have a Facebook account in 2006. 2007, the iPhone comes out, but it's very expensive and very few teenagers have one. By 2010, 2011, around half of American teenagers have an iPhone or Samsung. They have a smartphone and they have access to social media in middle school. Because even though for Facebook and Instagram, I think the minimum age is and was 13, my son is 12. A lot of his friends have Instagram. You just lie. So middle school kids are now getting on social media. By 2010, 2011, you've got a lot of them. And that's what I think is the main cause of this, because social media does not really affect boys very much. But man, does it affect girls.
Why is that?
So if you look at, a couple of reasons. First, look at the nature of aggression within the sexes. Boys' bullying is physical. Okay, boys are physically dominating, and then the risk is that they're going to get punched. Okay, so you give everybody an iPhone. What do they do with it? Games and porn. They don't use it to hurt each other.
Boys, you're saying?
Boys, that's right. It doesn't affect their bullying. But girls' aggression, girls are actually as aggressive as boys. There's research from the 80s and 90s on this. If you include relational aggression, girls don't bully each other by threatening to punch each other in the face. Girls bully each other by damaging the other girl's social relationships, spreading rumors, spreading lies, spreading a doctored photograph, saying bad things, excluding them. It's relational aggression. And so it's always been really hard to be a middle school student. It's always been harder to be a middle school girl than a middle school boy, okay? So beginning around 2010, 2011, we throw in this brand new thing into the mix. Okay, girls, here's this beautiful thing in your hand, and here's all these programs where you can damage anyone's social relationships any time of the day or night with deniability from an anonymous account. Go at it, girls. And so the nature of girls' bullying is hypercharged by social media and smartphones. That's one mechanism. The other two mechanisms are the social comparison, because it's always been hard to be a teen girl emerging with beauty standards and impossible beauty standards. And when we were kids, you had impossible beauty standards that these models were all doctored up and then Photoshop. Okay, so you've got these impossible beauty standards out there. But beginning with social media, and especially in recent years, your own friends can put on a filter on Instagram to make their lips bigger, their skin cleaner, their eyes bigger. So your own friends are more beautiful than they are in real life. You feel uglier. So that's the social comparison of beauty. And then probably the biggest single one is the fear of missing out, the fear of being left out. So all kids are subject to this. Everyone's concerned about whether they're included or whether they're excluded. But girls are much more sensitive. And so suddenly when everybody is tracking each other's who was invited, who's there, and especially any program in which a girl puts something out and then waits to see what other people say about it, that is what's really damaging, I think. Again, let me stress, we don't know for sure. There are some experiments on this, but it's mostly correlational stuff we're talking about here, correlational data. But the overall experience of being a girl who was born in 1995 or later and got this stuff in middle school is different from being a girl born in 1990, let's say, where you didn't get this stuff till college.
Are you concerned that this is a trend that as technology becomes more and more invasive, and with these new technologies as they emerge, that this is going to be worse?
Yes.
And worse? Yeah.
Yes. But it doesn't have to be. So I think in the last 2 years, we're really waking up to this. The founders of this technology, it's really interesting. So first of all, it's important to note, as many people have read, a lot of the creators of this technology do not let their kids have it. So they know that these things were made to be addictive. They're made to grab eyeballs and not let go. So that's one thing. We should keep that in mind, that the makers of this are wary of it. Second, they've gotten more and more addictive as they've gotten better and better, as they've evolved. So they're getting more and more, and Fortnite is an example of an extremely addictive game. And it does, but so if you've ever been to a casino and you've seen people sitting at those machines like zombies, just hour after hour pulling that crank, because there were psychologists working out the variable reinforcement schedule for the gambling companies. Psychologists, they're helping companies manipulate users, and that's happening to our kids too. They're manipulated to stay on the device. So once we're beginning to realize this, the nature of these technologies, the fact that what is good for adults may be terrible for 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and once we realize that these things are so attractive that they crowd out all the other healthy activities like playing outside, playing with groups of friends, once we realize that, I think and I hope we'll get some reasonable norms. And what I'd like to propose, this is fantastic to be able to talk to so many people, what I'd like to propose is if you have kids, especially if you have kids under about 16, please do what you can to talk with other parents and especially with the principal of any schools you know, and say, we need some sensible norms because we can't solve this problem by ourselves. So I want to keep my kids off social media, but my son says, well, most of my friends have Instagram accounts. Now, if it was every friend and he was the only one who was excluded, it would be really hard for me to stick to my guns. I would do it, but it'd be really hard. Whereas if it was only a few of his friends and most of them weren't, it would be so easy. And I hear this from parents over and over. I don't want my kid on social media, but I don't want her to be left out.
Yeah.
And so if the principal would just say, parents, please, this is getting out of hand. This is harming kids. Look at the data. Look at the suicide rates. Look at the self-harm rates. We've got to do something. What do you do? A couple of things. I think it's a couple of pretty simple norms. One, all devices out of the bedroom by a set time, at least half an hour before bed. There is no reason why kids should have an iPhone or a computer or a screen in their bedroom because so many kids are attracted to it. They'll check their status overnight, and it interrupts their sleep. We can't be having teenagers who have interrupted sleep. There's just no benefit from that.
Gave my daughter a Fitbit, my 10-year-old, to monitor all sorts of different things. She was interested in it, so we got her one for Christmas. And she slept 5.5 hours the first night she had it on because we could check. We're like, what are you doing?
She's checking the Fitbit.
What's going on here? I'm like, this is not good. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't wear this now. And she's like trying to make all these arguments to keep it. I'm like, listen. Yeah. She goes, it's not distracting me. I go, if it's not distracting you, then you shouldn't care if you don't have it on.
Right.
Because then it's not going to mean anything.
Yeah.
And then there's like this, shit, like she got checkmated.
Yeah, that's right. No, because these things are so attractive.
Addictive.
Yeah.
I had one of those goddamn watches, those Apple watches. I had it on for one day, and while I was doing the podcast, it kept vibrating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting text messages on my wrist. Yeah.
So right, and your brain is all developed.
Yeah,
you're an adult. Well, okay,
sketchy.
Right. Okay, but imagine if you're a 10 or 11-year-old kid.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
And you put something out there, and you want to know, did Bill like it yet?
Yes.
Why did Mary like Bill's but not like?
Yeah.
So that's rule number one. You've got to get devices out of the bedroom.
Yes.
Give them an old-fashioned alarm clock. Let them wake up with an alarm clock. That's one. Two. No social media till high school. There is no reason why kids in middle school or elementary school should have Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, any of those.
I agree.
They can text each other. Like when we were kids, you'd call each other on the phone. That's fine. They can text each other. But there should be no social media till high school because it's a social dilemma that we can't solve alone. We can only solve it if there's an agreement among parents and guidance from the principal. Please, parents, don't give your kid an Instagram account until
My only
high school.
concern is that they're not going to learn how to mitigate it or how to navigate it, rather, if we say nothing till high school, and then when they get into high school, then they're confronted with it. I would like them to have some skills or at least some understanding of what's going on.
Now, wait a second. So I'm not saying don't let them have access to these machines. I'm not saying don't let them.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying don't allow them to have social media. Yeah.
And how about this? The bullying that takes place in middle school is primitive and destructive, and the bullying that takes place in late high school is a lot less and is not the same way.
Why do you think that is?
Well, middle school kids are just coming into this. There's some research. So Jean Twenge has a book called iGen, and she has some data in there that suggests that when you get social media in college, it doesn't seem to harm you, but when you got it in your preteen years, it does. And she thinks that it's in part the nature of the bullying is such. So, sure, we want them to know how to deal with this, but, they can learn it pretty quickly when they're 15. It's not like they need a running start from 11 to 15.
Right.
So I just see no good whatsoever coming from social media in middle school, and I see a lot of harm. If you want and look, I go around the country, I talk about this. Almost the rule now is when someone says, "Oh, well, my daughter's in high school and she's had it," and I say, "How's she doing? Does she have anxiety problems?" The answer is almost always yes. And if it's not her, then her friends are all crippled by or suffering from anxiety. Yeah. So I think we have to, you have to weigh costs and benefits. A few years ago, we didn't know for sure about the costs. Now we do.
Yeah, no, you're making total sense. I'm purely playing devil's advocate, and I'm on the same page with you. My kids don't have phones, and my 10-year-old, it's shocking how many girls in her class have phones.
That's right.
And Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts.
And I'll say it right now, her friends are at higher risk than she is of having an anxiety disorder, of being hospitalized because they're going to cut themselves, and ultimately of suicide.
Yeah, it's so common, and it's most of the kids in school now. And when they get older than 10, the number increases. Like, parents hold out for as long as they can, but as they get older... And the kids want phones, man. Everybody wants a phone.
That's right. So let me put in a plug. So I gave my son, so I'm saying two contradictory things. One is I'm saying we got to let our kids out, got to start letting them out at least by age 8, at least to go with their friends to playground, stores. We got to start doing this. And at the same time, I'm saying that the technology has some negative effects. Okay. If you're going to send your kid out, I totally get what you were saying about the panic. Like the first time that we let our son out in the park and then he didn't come home right when he said, and it was real panic. So two things. One is we have to get used to that because he always does come home. But secondly, I didn't realize this when I gave him an iPhone, my old iPhone. There's a great little product. I don't know if Verizon, no, they don't make it. I think LG makes it, but it's a gizmo or a gizmo gadget. And so it's a watch. It's a big clunky thing, but my daughter loves wearing it because it's kind of like a James Bond, Dick Tracy thing. It's a watch. You press a button, you turn it on. You can call 3 phone numbers. That's it, 3 phone numbers. So she can call. And so now I can send her out to get bagels on Sunday morning. She walks about 6 blocks in New York City. It's incredibly safe.
How old is she?
She is 9. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So, and she is a much more independent, confident girl because of it. And she is proud of this fact that she is a free-range kid. She can walk around our neighborhood. I mean, we live in Greenwich Village. It's incredibly safe. So she can go get bagels, and she has no sense of direction. So a couple times when she's been out doing an errand, she gets lost. She just presses a button. Daddy, I don't know where I am. And if she's calm.
Right.
And we talk it through, and I can track her. That's the reassuring thing.
Wow.
I can see on a screen roughly where she is. So I can say, what do you see? And I say, oh, come back this way. And she always knows if she gets in trouble, just walk home and start again.
Yeah. Whew.
What are you thinking, Joe? What's that facial expression for?
Nothing. It's just children wandering around on their own.
As always happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as they have to do at some point.
I know, but look at how you're even reacting to this.
What?
But you're beaming up and you're adding emotion to your voice and you're smiling as though everything's going to be fine. Everything. You're doing this in a sort of, you're not just reassuring, you're selling it.
You're right. I am selling it.
Yeah.
Because we as a society bought into a set of beliefs that are based on falsehoods. The risk to our kids is minuscule. Mm-hmm. Someone calculated at present rates of abduction by strangers, if you put your kid in a car and you go into a store and you leave the windows open and your kid's sitting there in the parking lot, you'd have to stay in that store for 700,000 years before your kid is likely to be abducted.
Well, doesn't that depend on what neighborhood you live in?
I suppose so.
Yeah.
But still, the point is that there's hardly any actual abduction. And so actually, this brings up a really important point I'd like to say. One of the sticking points here is that we're afraid to let our kids out because bad things can happen to us as well as to the kids.
Sure.
And so
I would hope that would be the least of your concerns. I hope your number one concern would be your children's safety. But you getting in trouble, I would hope would be the least of your concerns.
Not the least of them, because I am selling something. I am selling the idea that the gigantic rise in mental illness of teenagers is caused in part because we've overprotected them. We have denied them the experiences of independence they need to develop their basic social sense. And so I am selling an idea that we've totally botched this, and we need to undo it. And a big piece of that is we need to be removed from the fear of legal prosecution. And so Utah, the state of Utah, passed a year ago, they passed the first free-range kids bill, which says, it puts into state law, it says, I forget what the exact terms, but the gist of it is, a parent cannot be considered to be negligent just by having the kids be unsupervised. So if you send your kids out to the park, you have to use judgment. Obviously, if there's a pattern of neglect, that's a totally different story.
Right.
But the mere fact, like, as you just said, the story about, I'm teaching my kids to go outside. I know that they're outside. I told them to go outside. You can't be arrested for that.
Right.
And until we have legal protections, it's going to be very hard for anyone to do it because the risk is you could be drawn into months and months of supervision. Your kids can actually be taken away from you if you give them independence in some parts of the country.
It's interesting that Utah would be so progressive about that.
I don't know the history behind it.
It's such a safe place. It's one of the reasons why, I think.
That could be. So a big part of this is we don't trust each other anymore.
Right.
If you don't trust your neighbors, then you're not going to let them out. You're not going to let your kids out.
Episode 1649. From dopamine hits to digital fatigue, Joe Rogan breaks down how solitude might be the antidote we've been avoiding.
So this is another thing that I point out in the book, is that we're never bored anymore. So as we evolved, boredom is this evolutionary discomfort that basically told us, whatever you're spending your time on right now, it's not an efficient use of your time. So go find something else. Now, in the past, this would be like, let's say you're picking berries from a bush. You've picked the easiest to pick ones. Well, if we didn't have this cue of boredom, we'd be like reaching into the very back for the berries that are hard to pick, but they become successively harder to pick because we've picked all these different ones, right? Boredom would kick on and be like, hey, your return on your time invested has worn thin. Move on to another bush, right? But nowadays, with this influx of media we have, people spend 11 hours a day engaging with digital media.
Is that real?
Yeah, 11, and that's the average. So
what?
You want to hear an even crazier thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a professor at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and one of the classes I teach is an intro class. So it's got about 150 students, and it's a media class I teach in the journalism department. First day of class, I'll talk about how things have changed with media. It's like we lived 2.5 million years with no media in our lives, and now it's become our lives. And then I will ask, all right, I want everyone to pull out your phone right now. I want you to look at your screen time. Tell me how much you have. Who thinks they have the highest? And we'll start to go through people. I've had people, 7 hours, 45 minutes, 8 hours, 50 minutes, 9 hours, 16 minutes. It's like, that's your entire day, all on that cell phone, right? So nowadays, when we have this discomfort of boredom kick in, we have a super easy escape from it. Right. We're not forced to be like, okay, what am I doing with my time? Is there something better I could be doing? We just pull out our phone. And you see this, right? Anytime people have one moment of solitude or inactivity, it's like, oh, might as well just check my phone.
It's brutal when you see people on dates.
Oh,
They're not even talking to each other. They're just looking at each other's phones.
Yeah.
Wow.
People at dinner. It's like,
yeah. It's like you're in front of an actual person.
Yeah.
And you prefer to communicate in digital with someone who's not even there.
Totally. And what's interesting about boredom is oftentimes when boredom would kick on, we would go inward, sort of mind wander. And mind wandering, it gives your brain some time to like reset and revive. Whereas anytime you're focused on the outside world, your brain is actively processing information. So this is kind of like in the book, I compare it to lifting a weight. When you're having a conversation, looking at your phone, watching a screen, whatever you're doing, if you're focusing on the outside world, your brain is working and it's lifting. When you go inward, your brain goes into this default mode network, which is like a rest period, right? So now, because every time we're bored, we just pull out that screen and focus more, our brains are just constantly being worked and overworked and overworked. And this is associated with just burnout, anxiety, etc.
Yeah, there's some real benefits to boredom in terms of creativity as well. Like,
Oh, totally.
boredom is really good for coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, and there's actually research behind this. They've done studies where they'll have people watch something really boring, like a video of people folding laundry, just like they bore the shit out of these participants, and then they have them come up with take these different creativity tests that scientists use, and the people who were bored come up with better solutions and responses than the people who had been stimulated the whole time. And you think about this, I mean, just in terms of anecdotes from creators, it's like you need time to just sit and be with yourself and have these weird ideas bubble to the surface. If you never have that, you're not letting the weird stuff come out, you know? I mean, do you experience this when you're trying to think of stuff in your own work?
Yeah, you have to have discomfort. The worst thing that can ever happen to me if I'm writing is to just open the browser and start, let me just Google this real quick and see. It's like I'll play little games with myself. Like I'll be in the middle of writing. I'm like, what does that mean really? And then I'll Google it and like, shut the fuck up and get back to work.
Yeah.
Because like I'm just being distracted. I'm just distracting myself. And sometimes I'll allow myself a couple of minutes of distraction before I get mad. But really, I shouldn't allow myself any. I should just keep working. And sometimes people say, I can't write. I just stare at the screen and nothing comes out. I'm like, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That's how it works, man. You're supposed to fucking stare at the screen.
Yeah.
And then you just write some nonsense and eventually something good will come out of that.
Yeah.
But if you just bail because you don't like the staring at the screen part and nothing's coming out, guess what? You're never going to write anything.
Exactly.
Congratulations. So then you'll be at the whim of whatever random spontaneous creativity just pops into your head throughout the day.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll get some and sometimes you won't.
Yeah.
But Pressfield talks about that in The War of Art. Have you read that book?
I haven't read that book, but I've heard about it.
It's a very small book, but it's really good. It's great for writers. And he's basically says, he talks about the muse as if the muse is a real thing. And he's like, treat it like it's a real thing. Treat it like you're a professional and you're there to summon the muse. And if you just show up every day and do that work, it will come. It will come to you and it will bestow upon you these creative ideas. But if you don't do that, if you don't sit down and be uncomfortable, rather, it won't happen. And in this day and age, like you said, we're so accustomed to having any boredom alleviated by our phone.
Yeah. So in the book, too, I talk about, you hear all this stuff that's like, break up with your phone, less time on your phone, here are 1,000 different ways to use your phone less. Yes, that is important. But the problem is a lot of times when people go, okay, I'm going to use my phone less. So they put their phone in, a safe or whatever weird habit they've developed. But then they go watch Netflix. It's like your brain doesn't know the damn difference between the screen on your phone and the screen on your TV. The point is that you need to remove yourself from this outside media that's totally just weaved its way into your life, like
stimulating you with nothing.
Yeah, the switch from phone to Netflix is like going, I'm quitting smoking, but I'm going to go buy some Red Man and just pack that in real hard,
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
We're all aware that there's this immense gravity that comes from the digital world. It's immense. It's just constantly pulling you in with new content and new distractions. And this is one of them. This fucking thing that you and I are on. It's ironic. This is one of the we're talking shit about what we actually are doing right now. But they, they pull you. They pull you. And we all know that it's probably not the best way to live. But it's so hard to break the addiction.
I mean, it's amazing, right? It's amazing that I can pull up a podcast and listen to almost whoever I want, their thoughts, and get these new ideas. But at the same time, it's like if that's all you're spending your time doing, there's some downsides. We need to offset it. That I don't necessarily think the answer is to go live in the woods in Alaska for the rest of your life. Although that'd be pretty cool if you did. More power to you. But figuring out like how do we balance this all and have these moments where we have solitude, go more inward, and aren't as stimulated. So one thing that after I'm standing out there in solitude, when I get home, I start researching, what are the benefits of solitude? Because we know that the data shows that being lonely isn't good for us, but there's the difference between loneliness and solitude. Like solitude is electing to be by yourself and using that time for sort of introspection. And the scientists that I talked to, they said, yeah, you really need this because a lot of times people are more conductor circuits and they don't do well when they're alone at all. This is part of the reason we have such a loneliness problem. But if you can build this capacity to be alone, they call it, that can serve you well in the long time. And it also breeds deeper thinking and creativity. I mean, it's there's a reason that thousands of years of religious tradition, they have people who go and spend this time alone out in nature. I mean, Jesus was in the desert for 40 days. The Buddha exited the palace gates, and spent a bunch of time alone and in solitude. Even Abraham Lincoln used solitude and for a lot of his writing and stuff like that. And I feel like people don't have that as much anymore.
Episode number 1558. What if you're not the customer, but the product? Joe Rogan dives deep with Tristan Harris on the hidden psychology behind your screen time.
One of the things that Jack Dorsey has been pretty adamant about is that they really never saw this coming when they started Twitter.
Yeah.
And they didn't think that they were ever going to be in this position where they were going to be really the arbiters of free speech for the world.
Right.
Which is essentially in some ways what they are.
I think it's important to roll back the clock for people because it's easy to think, that we just sort of landed here and that they would know that they're going to be influencing the global psychology. But I think we should really reverse engineer for the audience. How did these products work the way that they did? So let's go back to the beginning days of Twitter. I think his first tweet was something like checking out the buffaloes in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. Jack was fascinated by the taxi cab dispatch system, that you could send a message and then all the taxis get it. And the idea is, could we create a dispatch system so that I post a tweet and then suddenly all these other people can see it? And the real genius of these things was that they weren't just offering this thing you could do. They found ways of keeping people engaged. I think this is important for people to get, that they're not competing for your data or for money. They're competing to keep people using the product. And so when Twitter, for example, invented this persuasive feature of the number of followers that you have, if you remember, that was a new thing at the time, right? You log in and you see your profile. Here's the people who you can follow, and then here's the number of followers you have. That created a reason for you to come back every day to see how many followers do I have. So that was part of this race to keep people engaged, as we talk about in the film. These things are competing for your attention, that if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. But the thing that is the product is your predictable behavior. You're using the product in predictable ways. And I remember a conversation I had with someone at Facebook who was a friend of mine, who said in a coffee shop one day, people think that we, Facebook, are competing with something like Twitter, that one social network is competing with another social network. But really, he said, our biggest competitor is YouTube, because they're not competing for social networks, they're competing for attention. And YouTube is the biggest competitor in the digital space for attention. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, because you realize that as they're designing these products, they're finding new clever ways to get your attention. That's the real thing that I think is different in the film The Social Dilemma, rather than talking about censorship and data and privacy and these themes. It's really, what is the core influence or impact that the shape of these products have on how we're making meaning of the world when they're steering our psychology.
Do you think that it was inevitable that someone manipulates the way people use these things to gather more attention? And do you think that any of this could have been avoided if there was laws against that? If instead of having these algorithms that specifically target things that you're interested in or things that you click on or things that are going to make you engage more, if they just allowed these things to, if someone said, listen, you can have these things, you can allow people to communicate with each other, but you can't manipulate their attention span.
Yeah, I think so we've always had an attention economy, right? And you're competing for it right now. And politicians compete for it. Can you vote for someone you've never paid attention to, never heard about, never heard them say something, outrageous? No. So there's always been an attention economy, and so it's hard to say we should regulate who gets attention or how.
But it's organic in some ways.
Right.
Like this podcast is an organic. I mean, if we're in competition, it's organic. I
Right.
just put it out there, and if you watch it, you don't, or you don't. I don't. I don't have any say over it, and I'm not manipulating it in any way.
Sort of. So, I mean, let's imagine that the podcast apps were different. And
Okay.
they actually, while you're watching, they had like the hearts and the stars and the kind of voting up in numbers, and you could like send messages back and forth. And Apple Podcasts worked in a way that didn't just reward, the things that you clicked follow on. It actually sort of promoted the stuff that someone said the most outrageous thing. Then you, as a podcast creator, have an incentive to say the most outrageous thing, and then you arrive at the top of the Apple Podcast or Spotify app. And that's the thing, is that we actually are competing for attention. It felt like it was neutral, and it was relatively neutral. And to progress that story back in time with, Twitter competing for attention, let's look at some other things that they did. So they also added this retweet, this instant resharing feature, right? And that made it more addictive because suddenly we're all playing the fame lottery, right? Like I could retweet your stuff and then you get a bunch of hits and then you could go viral and you could get a lot of attention. So then instead of the companies competing for attention, now each of us suddenly win the fame lottery over and over and over again, and we're getting attention. And then, I had another example I was going to think about, and I forgot it. What was it? You can jump in if you want.
Apple has an interesting way of handling sort of the way they have their algorithm for their podcast app is it's secret. It's weird. But one of the things that it favors new shows, and it favors engagement in new subscribers. So comments, engagement, and new shows.
There you go.
And
and that's the same as competing for attention, because engagement must mean people like it. And that's and there's going to be a fallacy as we go down that road, but go on.
Well, it's interesting because you could say if you have a podcast and your podcast gets like, let's say 100,000 downloads, a new podcast can come along and it can get 10,000 downloads and it'll be ahead of you in the rankings. And so you could be number 3 and it could be number 2. And you're like, well, how is that number 2? And it's got 10 times less, but they don't do it that way. And their logic is they don't want the podcast world to be dominated by, New York Times. And,
the big ones.
Yeah, and whatever's number 1 and number 2 and number 3 forever.
We actually just experienced this. We have a podcast called Your Undivided Attention, and since the film came out, in that first month, we went from being, in the lower 100 or something like that, to we shot to the top 5. I think we were the number 1 tech podcast for a while, and so we just experienced this through the fact, not that we had the most listeners, but because the trend was so rapid that we sort of jumped to the top.
I think it's wise that they do that, because eventually it evens out over time. You see some people rocket to the top, like, oh my God, we're number 3.
Yeah.
And you're like, hang on there, fella. Just give it a couple of weeks. And then 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, now they're number 48. And they get depressed.
Right.
But that was really where you should have been. But the thing that Apple does that I really like in that is it gives an opportunity for these new shows to be seen, where they might have gotten just stuck, because these rankings and the ratings for a lot of these shows are so consistent and they have such a following already.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for these new shows to gather attention.
Right.
And the problem was that there were some people that gamed the system, and there was companies that could literally move, like Earl Skakel. Remember Earl became the number 1 podcast and like no one was listening to it? Earl has money, and he hired some people to game the system, and he was kind of like open about it and laughing about it. Now, isn't he banned from iTunes now or something? I think he got banned because of that, because it was so obvious he gamed the system. He had like 1,000 downloads and he was number 1.
I mean, the thing is that Apple Podcasts you can think of as like the Federal Reserve or the government of the attention economy, because they're setting the rules by which you win, right? They could have set the rules, as you said, to be, who has the most listeners, and then you just keep rewarding the kings that already exist versus who has the most trending. There's actually a story a friend of mine told me, I don't know if it's true, although it was a fairly credible source, who said he was in a meeting with Steve Jobs when they were making the first podcast app, and that they had made a demo of something where you could see all the things your friends were listening to. So just like making a news feed like we do with Facebook and Twitter, right? And then he said well, why would we do that? if something is important enough, your friend will actually just send you a link and say you should listen to this. Like, why would we automatically just promote random things that your friends are listening to? And again, this is kind of how you get back to social media. How is social media so successful? Because it's much more addictive to see what your friends are doing in a feed, but it doesn't reward what's true or what's meaningful. And this is the thing that people need to get about social media is it's really just rewarding the things that tend to keep people back addictively. The business model is addiction in this race to the bottom of the brainstem for attention.
Episode number 1503. Joe Rogan calls out fake motivators chasing clout instead of truth. It's not about posting quotes. It's about living them.
Like everything that you do should be in worship, so to speak, to the ideal you're trying to create.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't do that if you're insincere. You can't do that if you're just trying to be the packaging and not the item.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, that there's too many, and I think this is part of the problem with social media is that people are intoxicated with this idea of having other people think they're awesome. So they put out all this stuff to make it look like, like they're this amazing person, and, they'll put up these quotes and put up this shit. But it's not really what they're into. They just want you to think they're into it, and it comes off that way. Like you get, like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, I posted a quote last night, or not a quote rather, but an image of Miyamoto Musashi, because I got into the Book of Five Rings again.
I cannot wait to hear what just criticism somehow came out of nowhere to tell you what a jerk you were, how wrong you are.
I don't know if there is any criticism. I didn't pay attention. But what I was going to criticize is I was going to say that I have an issue with, there's a lot of people online. It's not even that I have an issue. It doesn't resonate with me. This is a better way of putting it without being negative. There's so many people that are posting motivational shit, but they haven't done anything.
True. It is trying to be the packaging and not the item.
You can do this. If you feel that, go do this. This is how you go get it. What the fuck have you done? You have to do something. And I didn't say this last night, but this is what I meant when I posted it. Like, if you want to take inspiration, there's something about the words of Miyamoto Musashi that are profoundly inspirational, because he's a man who bested over 60 men in one-on-one sword fights. So when he's talking about strategy, or he's talking about technique, and he's talking about preparation, and you must research this, you must look into this, and this is how you go about attacking, this is how you play off your opponent's strategy. He's talking about life or death with a fucking sword.
You can't get more serious than that.
It comes through in his words, man. Even translation from Japanese to English, even though it's 400 years later, there's something about that guy that it gives me goosebumps, man, when I read his shit.
I fell in love with samurai philosophy a long time ago from Nitobe and the Hagakure, and there's even one called Budo or Samurai Philosophy of the Samurais. I forget the name of it, but it's a really short, succinct book that really nails down some things. And I think part of why what they have to say is so authentic and so real, so to speak, is because it's life or death for them. You know, you're reading Storm of Steel by Ernst Jünger, and you're reading this guy's take on being in World War I. And it's not that he was never afraid. It's not that he didn't understand what war is. It's just from his position as a soldier and the way he approached things and the way he even still saw beauty in these moments, in living in that part of his life. It's clearly somebody that I believe has a good grip on being towards death, as Heidegger would put it, like being embracing what it means to be alive. And by embracing that, you're also embracing the fact that you are gonna die. It is not going away, that death is alongside you and you don't know when it's coming. And there's no need to, because you're not supposed to be thinking about whether or not you're gonna die or when it's gonna come or anything like that. But you need to be thinking about what you're gonna do before that time does show up and how you're gonna do it and for why. You know, what is it? How are you finding meaning and fulfillment in life, so that when death comes along and tugs on your shoulder and on your shirt sleeve, you're like, all right, well, this is it.
Yeah, and those guys, people that you've described, whether it's Musashi or any of those people, what comes out in their words is authenticity, because of the fact that they have led these extraordinary lives and they have faced incredible danger. They have lived. There's something about that where you can genuinely learn from those people, whereas there's a lot of people that really haven't, but they know that people long for those things, so they try to recreate it. They try to recreate these quotes, or they try to find some words that will inspire you to get going and seize the moment and make the most of the day and go out there and conquer and kick ass, and it doesn't mean anything.
It's all persona.
Yeah.
It is attempting to take on, it's presenting the persona of that kind of individual, mainly because they know that deep down all of us realize that there's weight to those kind of people,
Yes.
you know, and I'm sure Peterson would be like, it's the bloody archetype, you
Yeah,
know, or
it's
something.
exactly what he would do. Yeah.
But
Episode number 1248. Joe Rogan and Bill Ottman dive into how social media algorithms quietly shape our emotions, our thoughts, even our sense of self.
So this is where free and open source software is just essential. Like the big networks, there's no excuse for them not to be sharing their software.
Right.
It's like when you're a public forum on that scale, the community just has a right to know what the algorithms are doing.
So you think that they're not sharing their software because their software is encoded and designed to spy on you and extract information and sell that information?
Partially.
Like when Jamie gives up your contacts, when he signs up for an app and he says, yes, you can get access to all my contacts.
There's a lot of reason, and they don't want people to compete with them. Like anyone could actually take all of our code and make their own social network and compete with us. They could set up on their own servers, and we encourage that. That's what like the Fediverse is called.
That's what Elon Musk does with Tesla, all of his electric patents for electric cars.
I think that he opened up the patents. I don't think if he open sourced all the code of the car,
Right.
but he's definitely moving in the right direction of like he wants to build the market.
Yes, and he also wants to save the world. I mean, he legitimately has this, and he also has a shitload of money. He's got enough money. Yeah. I think that's a big factor with those guys.
But don't you think that it's almost like it's going to help whatever network does that? Oh, is more transparent, stop spying on people, is more community run and evolved. Wouldn't that be the network that you would think humanity would want to stick with in the long term? Like, wouldn't that be a good move of them?
Yes and no. For the average person, what are they losing when they get on Facebook or Google? What's bad? What happens?
Well, now
bad
their
in
likes are
life?
going down. Everybody's likes are going down, and that makes everyone very sad.
What do you mean?
Well, the algorithms, you're only reaching 5% of your own followers organically on Facebook now. And they're starting to change the chronological feed on Instagram too. And they know that this causes depression. And they're still doing it because they know that they think they're better at showing you what you want to see than you are. And they want to make money from it.
What do you mean by they know that this causes depression?
They've done studies about mental health in relation to, actually, Facebook got exposed like 5 years ago for doing a secret study on like a few million users where they were injecting both positive and negative content into the news feed, and they proved that they could affect people's moods. This was with Princeton. There's a huge backlash, and they're like, oh, sorry. Whoops.
Right, but this isn't injecting negative or positive content. This is just moving these images or these posts around so that less people see them?
There's two different topics there. The basic news feed on Facebook is now a mysterious conglomeration of thousands of variables, which we don't know. But additionally, like a few years ago, they were exposed for having been experimenting with people's brains.
That's right. I remember that now. That's right. Yeah, I remember thinking like, wow, that's kind of creepy. They're experimenting on the people that are on their site, and they're not telling these people they're experimenting on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if they're trying to make it better, do you think that that's a factor that it actually? I mean, how does it cause depression if your images or your posts are not being seen by as many people?
Have you talked to kids posting on social media and their reactions to how many likes they're getting? They get very very concerned.
Well, that seems like more of a problem with that.
It is both. It is on both sides. Being addicted to likes as some sort of a,
it's a weird dopamine hit, right?
It's not healthy, and we need to learn to not care about that. But I think that the core purpose of a social network is to subscribe to someone and see their stuff.
Yeah.
And when people subscribe to you, they see your stuff.
Right.
So when you spend years building up a following on social media, and say you earn 100,000 followers or something, and then suddenly the network says, no, your friends can't see that anymore. That's not cool. And even like Twitter's default newsfeed is no longer chronological. You have to click it to go chronological, and then it defaults back to their weird algorithm thing. So we're saying, look, 100% organic, chronological, raw forever as default. And then if you want to curate, algorithms or have recommended stuff come in as an alternative, fine. But that is the core purpose of social media, is to connect with people that follow you, and the other way around.
What do you think the purpose is? Like, why do you think Facebook would decide to have things not in chronological order and only be seen by 5% of your followers? Like, what would be the benefit in that for them?
Revenue.
Revenue, how so? How does that generate revenue?
They just know that they can keep you on the app better.
If you get less likes?
No.
If your stuff is seen by less people, it doesn't make sense.
That's a good point. It sort of works both ways. I think that they think they know the people that you're going to react to the most. So as a consumer, when you're getting that content, the algorithms are showing you what you typically like. Have you noticed that?
I'm really not paying much attention, but I believe you.
So yeah, for it's hurting creators. People who post are getting hurt. People who are sitting there just scrolling, they're the ones who are really getting, addicted, more so with the algorithms.
So how are the people that are posting getting hurt? They're getting hurt because their stuff is being seen by less people?
Yeah.
Because it's not chronological and it's not organic because it's curated.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. But aren't they doing it because they think it's going to be a better and an experience that's more conducive to your likes?
That's what they say.
What do you think they're doing it for then?
They're doing it because they have studied through looking at the data how to keep people on the app more.
Right, and that way is to give them, like say if I Google or if I look at muscle cars on Instagram. Now if I go to my search, it's all muscle car stuff. So that's what it is. They say, oh, he likes that. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to give him a lot of that.
And I think that's okay as an alternative feed, or to put that somewhere. I just think the core feed always needs to stay pure. Because otherwise you're just down the slippery slope again. And
I understand.
It's just feeding, they're injecting things into your head that you didn't ask for.
Right. And they're doing it because they want to keep you around. Yeah, that makes sense. How many different companies are subscribing to that? It seems like all the big ones we're saying are curating and moving things around, and all the big ones have an algorithm that's designed to keep you on board, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's okay to pursue. I think there's really cool things you can do with AI and machine learning and algorithms that is really beneficial. But it's just taking away people's reach when they have worked years and years to achieve it. It's not okay.
Do you think that this marriage between something that is this social media network that's designed to allow people to communicate with each other, and then commerce, like this business, like how do we maximize this business? How do we get more profit out of this business? How do we get these people to engage more? And then they start monkeying with the code and screwing with what you see and what you don't see. You think that's what's happening?
Yeah. But in the short term, it's probably working. But in the long term, they're betraying everybody's trust. It has to be more of a consent-based system. Mm-hmm. So, at least give people, it should be opt out by default. And fine, give me messages to opt in so that you can show me certain things. But this whole forcing people into surveillance it just has to stop. It's super scary.
How's it super scary to you?
It's just too much power.
Yeah. It's too much power for something that's supposed to be silly, right? Like what was Facebook supposed to be? It was supposed to be some silly thing that you just can communicate with friends.
It was, but from the beginning, none of these networks have ever really been about the people of the networks. It's always been closed source since the inception. So, but then you look at open networks out there. You have Wikipedia, totally open source, community run. Granted, they have their issues with moderation, fine. But it's a top 10 website in the world. It's totally open source, Creative Commons content, incredible human achievement. Bitcoin, open source money. WordPress even is an open source CMS system that is like powering 25% of the internet. So why wouldn't that happen with social media? It should. I mean, this is where everyone's hanging out. So we should all sort of collectively even own it. We did an equity crowdfunding round. So like thousands of members of our community actually own the site.
Yeah. Now, how many people are on Minds?
We have like 1.5 million registered, like 250,000 active. We're small. But the weird thing is that even though we're a fraction of the size, especially smaller creators who come get better reach on Minds than they do on Facebook and Twitter, because we have this reward and incentive system sort of like gamified, where you earn reach and you earn more of a voice for contributing. So like you could have an account on Twitter for 10 years and post thousands and thousands of tweets, and you never hit that viral nerve, and you just never really get much exposure. So we're trying to help people be heard. And so you'll find a small creator who on other networks has no followers have thousands and thousands of followers on Minds.
And what do you think you would like to do with Minds in the future that you haven't been able to do yet?
Engineer the control out of ourselves, so that we aren't even in a position to really, take people's stuff down. Or
well, what if someone posts your house and your information, where your kids go to school?
I think that on the central servers, obviously, yes, we're always going to moderate. And if it's legal, it can stay. If it's not illegal, it can't. But a decentralized social network is definitely where we have to go, because, and yeah, okay, it's scary. And, you've talked about this, like things are getting more transparent. Our lives, this is sort of like the inevitable evolution of technology. I mean, how many hours a day do you stream? A couple? 25 years ago, would you have thought you'd be sharing, 20% of your life live streaming to, millions of people? Like our lives are becoming more transparent, just inevitably. It's just pulling us.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Bitcoin, crypto, DAT, torrent type architecture, that is just where we're going, because it's more resilient. It's less censorship prone. There's just benefits of it. I think that we can balance it too. Like maybe when you post, you have a decision. Do you want to be able to delete this at any point? All right, fine. Then you can post the central server. Do you want this to get unleashed? Yeah, it's scary because, there's scary stuff on the internet. It's already like that. But, getting into censorship more, does censorship even solve the problem? Or does it make it worse?
What problem?
The problem of crazy content, illegal content.
How could it make it worse?
Well, I mean, it seems like it can often amplify radicalization.
It definitely can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely, when you censor people, it just makes them aware that there's a plot against them too, right? It's a lot of conservatives on Twitter are finding that. Somebody, Sam Harris, actually just sent me an article that was detailing the bias against conservatives on Twitter, that they've actually done, some real studying it, and it's pretty demonstrable.
It affects both the left and the right.
Not real.
Demonstrable?
Yeah, the way I'm saying it wrong. But it affects the left and the right for sure. Yeah,
that's what Kyle was saying. I watched that video that he did, and it's anti-establishment that seems to be getting targeted. And so, Abby's been censored on Facebook. Abby Martin.
Yeah.
And yeah, this person today. Most of the stuff coming out of RT is progressive, which is weird. And who knows what kind of games are getting played behind the scenes with the Russia. Who knows? But the point is, they have a right to be there. And and this is not YouTube's fault. But remember the YouTube shooter? She thought she was getting censored on YouTube, and she went and brought a gun to the YouTube headquarters. Like, people get pissed when they get censored. It affects you.
Right, but in her case, you're talking about a crazy person that wasn't really being censored.
But there's crazy people out there.
Yeah,
No,
but she actually wasn't being censored.
Well, she was getting censored just like everybody else is getting soft censored on these networks.
Well, she just thought wasn't getting promoted the way she wanted to. I don't think anybody was actively doing anything to her.
I'm not saying that.
Her stuff was terrible.
I'm saying that the soft censorship of the algorithms, people getting demonetized, this has an impact on psychology.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm not saying they were deliberately targeting her, and it's horrible what happened, but yeah.
So what you're saying is that these algorithms that they use in order to maximize their revenue and give people things that they like, but actually takes away from things being posted chronologically, keeps certain things from being seen by as many people, so it keeps them from being as viral, so it keeps the whole thing from being organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, it gets to that point where we're realizing that all of these things, all these social media things are really recent. We've only had them for a few years, and we don't necessarily know what the rules should or shouldn't be. So it's good. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. I wanted to find out where these upstarts, where these new people are coming into the game, like Minds, like where you're coming into the game from, and what is your position on what's wrong with the current state of affairs?
Yeah, and look, there is messed up stuff on social media. Like, we'll get pigeonholed into being like, oh, you support all of this crazy stuff. First of all, most of the users on Minds are like artists, musicians, filmmakers, activists, journalists, just trying to get their content out there. There's a very tiny minority of like actually, crazy content. But
when you say crazy content, what do you mean? You alt-right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even going to make decisions on what is and isn't crazy. That's not my place. But it's been proven that censorship is not the answer. I mean, look at the history of prohibition.
Yeah.
It's you have digital content, it's substances, it's anything. People want information, and they want the ability to make the decision for themselves.
Episode 2390, Joe Rogan and Jack Carr on the UK's digital crackdown. 12,000 arrested for online. Episode number 1342, Joe Rogan and John Carmack dive into how social media rewires our minds. Is it saving us or destroying us?
When you're watching this from the outside and you're seeing all this technology develop, are you concerned at all when you see how addicted people are to their phones? Because your games are very addictive in the best ways, right? Quake is super addictive. It's really fun. It's great to play, and that's why it's addictive, because you just want to get that charge, that rush to get back in there. But the odd thing to me about cell phone addiction is there's not much thrill. It's a weird addiction where you're just constantly checking and nothing's coming back. Like, people are just constantly checking their email and their Twitter messages, their DMs and YouTube videos, but there's not a lot coming back at you. I'm concerned. I see this thing where you'll go to a place and you'll see 80% of the people just looking at their phones and not interacting with people. Do you ever look at that and go, where is this going?
So I do think about this in a way that, because this is one of these things where I recognize it in some other people where I think I probably do interact with things a little bit differently. And I am sometimes conscious of the fact that most people don't think about things the way I do. And it's clear that, yes, a lot of people just they get rage out of Twitter, and I can see in some people it's probably bad for them doing some of these social media things. But, I mean, I get inspiration out of Twitter. I mean, my feed I'm going through, I'm seeing brilliant scientists, new research developments, wonderful art from people, hard workers developing products. And I just look at this as this is this amazing set of human beings that are building the future. And I've got this window into their mind, and it winds up being a very positive thing for me. But I do see the people that just wind up having that it is a negative aspect for them. And I don't know what to do about that, because I mean, talking about people issues are obviously not my strong suit. I'm the nuts and bolts or bits and bytes technology person. And social challenges, I mean, that's one of the things that probably over, over decades, I've just come to be more at peace with the fact that I probably do think a bit differently than most people. I don't expect them to think necessarily like I do. And in many ways, that keeps me from being upset at a lot of people and just say, well, people are different. They're not going to process these things the same way that I do. But yeah, I can see it as potentially a problem. But I do think also there's this ability for people to people always want to say, it's okay, put down your phone. Why aren't you living in the real world? And there's another aspect of that where for many people, the world that you get in the virtual world, whether it's on your phone or all the way to VR, the whole reason you do that should be because it's better than the world that you're choosing to step away from. And again, it's harder for many people that are in an elite thought leader position. If your life is awesome in every way, then yeah, you don't need that much from the virtual world, whether it's on a cell phone or virtual reality. I mean, if you've been, courtside, backstage, pit lane, whatever, if you've done all of these things in real life, the VR version of it is not going to be that compelling. And if you saw people, fixated on all of that, you'd probably think those people are not living in reality. They should just be living in reality. But for so many people, what they get, the people on the other side of the phone that they're interacting with, that's where they'd rather be. The fact that people can find their tribe out of the billions of people in the world, even if they live in some podunk town in the Midwest, I think that's a really wonderful thing. And so while, yes, there is a negative tail on one side from it, I think that this connecting everyone is largely a good thing on net. There are downsides. Maybe there should be things we should be doing to mitigate the downsides. But I think this connection of humanity is on net a positive thing.
I tend to agree with you that it is a positive thing. I think philosophically, I think the way we understand each other, the way we communicate, it's very radically different than our grandparents. And all of it seems to be moving in a place where we understand each other better. And you're going to have your side effects like Twitter rage and social media bias and these confirmation bias groups where people just they sit in these echo chambers and reiterate the same ideas over and over again in each other. And you're also going to get people that are understanding cultures, understanding each other, understanding psychology, understanding the way the mind works, and getting access to information at a rate that's unprecedented in terms of the knowledge that you can get, like just being able to Google things. I mean,
and it's, and nobody can actually give them credit for it. When like Mark Zuckerberg and the Facebook leadership, they talk about the mission is to connect the world. And, of course it's like, oh, okay, of course the Facebook CEO is going to be mouthing these things. But like, I really legitimately do think that the Facebook leadership is doing this because they think that's a positive thing. And I agree with them. Now, I'm not a very social person. I'm an introvert. I'm a hermit mode sort of person so much of the time. But I think that this is, again, a good thing, that connecting more people, giving them the opportunity to find people that they wouldn't otherwise be interacting with, people they wouldn't even have known existed in many cases. I think we'll come out of this, looking back decades in the future. There will have been all the tragic things that happened with social media, but on net, it's going to be good.
Episode 1422. Lex Friedman reveals why dumb algorithms, the social media, might be the most dangerous AI of all.
There has been research done on making artificial insects that have like little cameras inside of them that look like a dragonfly or some sort of bug, and they fly around and they can film things.
And the thing that terrifies a lot of people is going more microscopic than that, more like robots inside the body that help you cure diseases and so on, help monitor certain things, even at the nanoscale. So basically creating viruses, creating new viruses.
Little tiny ones.
Yeah, and if they learn, they can be pretty dumb. But on a mass scale, dumb, you don't have to be intelligent to destroy all of human civilization. So
the real question about this artificial intelligence stuff that everybody seems to, the ultimate end of the line, what Sam Harris is terrified of, is it becoming sentient and it making its own decisions and deciding that we don't need people. That's what everybody's really scared of, right?
I'm not sure if everybody's scared of it. Yeah, they might be. I think that's a story that's the most compelling, the sexiest story that the philosopher side of a Sam Harris is very attracted to.
Yeah.
I am also interested in that story, but I think achieving sentience, I think that requires also creating consciousness. I think that that requires creating the kind of intelligence and cognition and reasoning abilities that's really, really difficult. I think we'll create dangerous software-based systems before then. That'll be a huge threat. I think we already have them. The YouTube algorithm, the recommender systems of Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. From everything I know, having talked to those folks, having worked on it, the challenging aspect there is they have the power to control minds, the mass, sort of what the mass population thinks. And YouTube itself and Twitter itself don't have direct ability to control the algorithm exactly. Like, one, they don't have a way to understand the algorithm, and two, they don't have a way to control it. But what I mean by control is control it in a way that leads to, in aggregate, a better civilization. Meaning, like, sort of the Steven Pinker, the better angels of our nature, sort of encourage the better sides of ourselves. It's very difficult to control a single algorithm that recommends the journey of millions of people through the space of the internet. It's very difficult to control that. And I think that intelligence instilled in those algorithms will have a much more potentially either positive or detrimental effect than sentient killer robots. I hope we get to sentient killer robots because that problem I think we can work with. I'm very optimistic about the positive aspects of approaching sentience, of approaching general intelligence. There's going to be a huge amount of benefit, and I think there will be there's a lot of mechanisms that can protect against that going wrong. Just from knowing we know how to control intelligent systems when they are sort of in a box, when they're singular systems, when they're distributed across millions of people and there's not a single control point. That becomes really difficult. And that's the worry for me is the distributed nature of dumb algorithms on every single phone, sort of controlling the behavior, adjusting the behavior, adjusting the learning journey of different individuals. So, like, to me, the biggest worry and the most exciting thing is recommender systems, what they're called, at Twitter, at Facebook, at YouTube, YouTube especially. That one has, just like I think you mentioned, there's something special about videos in terms of educating and sometimes indoctrinating people. And YouTube has the hardest time. I mean, they have such a difficult problem on their hands in terms of that recommendation, because they don't. This is a machine learning problem, but knowing the contents of tweets is much easier than knowing the contents of videos. Like, our algorithms are really dumb in terms of being able to watch a video, understand what's being talked about. Right. So all YouTube is looking at is the title and the description. And that's it. Mostly the title. It's like basically keyword searching. Yeah. And it's looking at the clicking, viewing behavior of the different people. So, like, it figures out that the flat Earth supporters enjoy these kinds of videos. It forms a different kind of cluster, and makes decisions based on that. By the way, it seems to make definitive decisions about It doesn't like flat Earth, YouTube, I think.
Well, YouTube in particular, they're trying to do something about the influx of conspiracy theory videos. Yeah. And the indoctrination aspect of them. That, one of the things about videos is, like, say if someone makes a video and they make it on a very particular subject and they speak eloquently and articulately, but they're wrong about everything they're saying. They don't understand the science. Say if they're talking about artificial intelligence, right. They're saying something about things that you are an expert in. They could, without being checked, without someone like you in the room that says that's not possible because of X, Y, and Z, without that, they can just keep talking. So one of the things that they do, whether it's about flat Earth or whether it's about dinosaurs being fake or nuclear bombs being fake, they can just say these things, and they do it with an excellent grasp of the English language, right? So they say it. They're very compelling in the way they speak. They'll show you pictures and images, and if you are not very educated and you don't understand that this is nonsense, and especially if you're not skeptical, you can get roped in. You can get roped in real easy, and that's a problem. And it's a problem with some of the people that work in these platforms. Their children get indoctrinated, and they get angry. Their children get indoctrinated. Now, what's interesting is they get indoctrinated also with right-wing ideology, and then people get mad that they're indoctrinated by like Ben Shapiro videos. So they'll get pissed off at that. Well, but you're okay with left-wing.
Right.
Why? Because you're left-wing. So then it becomes like, okay, what is a problem? What's really a problem, and what is just something that's opposed to your personal ideology? And who gets to make that distinction? And that is where the arguments for the First Amendment come into play. Like, should these social media companies that have massive amounts of power and influence, should they be held to the same standards as the First Amendment? And should these platforms be treated as essentially a town hall, like where anyone can speak, and there's a platform? And there's a real problem in that there's not that many of them. This is a real problem. Man. The real problem is like Twitter is the place where people go to argue and talk about shit.
And then Twitter maybe has a competitor on Facebook, but YouTube certainly doesn't have a competitor.
YouTube doesn't have any competitor. I mean, there's Vimeo, there's a few other platforms, but realistically, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, YouTube is a giant platform. What is this? Alphabet reports YouTube ad revenue for the first time. Video service generated $15.1 billion in 2019. Holy shit.
In comparison, I just looked up Twitch ad revenue was supposedly around 500 to 600 million.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And what about Facebook? Facebook is stupendously valuable.
Probably way higher than that, but this is the first time.
By the way, Facebook I don't think pays, like YouTube paid for my McDonald's burgers yesterday.
Yes, Facebook's not, right?
Facebook is not, and Twitter and Instagram I don't think are paying you like directly. But
there's a lot of calls to break up Facebook. I'm not. Yeah. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on it. I don't use it. It's just connected to my Instagram. When I post something on Instagram, it goes to Facebook as well. I never go to Facebook.
There's a Joe Rogan Facebook group. That's a dumpster fire of brilliant folks. Let me just put it that way.
Look at this. Facebook's revenues amounted to $21.8 billion.
In just the fourth quarter.
Jesus Christ, just the fourth quarter, the majority of which were generated through advertising. The company announced over 7 million active advertisers on Facebook during the third quarter of 2019.
That probably, though, also adds an Instagram. That thing with YouTube is just YouTube, not Google,
right.
Not YouTube Premium, not anything else,
yeah.
just the ad revenue.
And to be fair, so the cash they have, they spend... like Facebook AI research groups, some of the most brilliant. It's a huge group that's doing general open-ended research. Google research, Google Brain, Google DeepMind are doing open-ended research. Like they're not doing the ad stuff. They're really trying to build. That's the cool thing about these companies having a lot of cash is they can bring some of the smartest people and let them work on whatever. In case it comes up with a cool idea, like autonomous vehicles with Waymo.
Yeah.
It's like, let's see if we can make this work. Let's throw some money at it, even if it doesn't make any money in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Let's make it work. That's the positive sort of side of having that kind of money.
Yeah, that makes sense. That there is, as long as they keep doing those kind of things. The real concern, though, is that they're actually severely influencing the democratic process. Yeah.
So it's difficult. I mean, certainly in Jack Dorsey, in terms of the CEOs we've interacted with, I think was one of the good guys.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
I mean,
he wants a Wild West Twitter.
Well, he doesn't know it. He wants a good Twitter. He's kind of thinking about Wild West.
But his idea is to have two.
Oh, two Twitter.
One that's filtered and one that's like, anything goes. Yeah.